PTSD was at its worst. I remember I hated sleeping. I would wake up minimum 2, 3, sometimes 10 times or more per night, drenched in sweat, after reliving the horror of nearly being murdered time and time again on an endless loop in my brain. It was a mental prison every time I attempted to go to sleep. It made me so terrified to sleep because I knew that every time I allowed myself to drift off into dreamland, I would inevitably be plunged back into the horror of the worst day of my life. And so I found myself just working as much as I could. Does that sound familiar? I would work 18 hours a day. I would pick up extra jobs. I would go out. I would hang out with friends until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and maybe take an hour nap between shifts. I would go days without sleeping because I hated what happened when I actually did fall asleep. There was one night, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where I remember clearly laying in bed and thinking about how I just really was not looking forward to dreaming about the worst night of my life for the 500 millionth time since it happened. And I found myself getting irritated at the fact that I knew I was going to have the dream again. You know, it was like, at this point, it was probably 7 years of a mental loop of, at least every night or every other night, I would have the same dream and I'd be back in the same moment and I'd be reliving everything that went wrong in my life since. And I remember thinking, I hate having this dream. I don't want to have this dream anymore. And then I wondered how strange it was that I was telling myself that I didn't want to have this dream. So I sat with that for a couple of days, and I kind of thought about how much I didn't want to be dreaming about the incident. But, I mean, you know what happens when you tell yourself you don't want to be doing something or you don't want to be thinking something. All you do is dream or think about whatever it is you're trying to avoid, because we are not set up to work that way, and the more you tell yourself you don't want something, the more likely you are to actually get it or receive it. It's like our brains have this way of wiring for the opposite of what we think we want. And a couple of nights later, I was thinking on this again, because when I get an idea in my head, I mull it over and I ruminate on it for hours and days and weeks until I come to a solution with it. And a couple days later, I was thinking about this again, and I was like, I wonder, if I don't want to be thinking about this, but I know that every time I go to bed and I think about this before I fall asleep, I dream about this, what if I were to consciously try to think about something else before I fell asleep? And I really didn't think it was going to work, but I found myself wanting to go for the experiment. I found myself curious enough to begin to experiment. And so the first night I started by just thinking of a place that I had been, and I think it was like a beach or something. This is years ago now, but I imagined myself on a really, really beautiful beach, and I just replayed a really good day in my head, and I remembered the sounds and the smell of the air and the feel of the sand on my feet and the warmth of the sun on my skin and the company I was with and the laughter that we shared. And the next morning, I realized I had slept 6 straight hours, which was the longest that I had slept in probably 6 or 7 years, consistently, like without waking up. And I woke up feeling strangely refreshed and also really confused, because I was like, this could not have been that easy that entire time. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now? I just spent the last 7 years in mental hell and anguish every single night, depriving myself of sleep, terrified to go to sleep because I didn't realize that this was up to me. And again, this might sound overly simplistic for some of you, but this is what worked for me, so I feel compelled to share it, because I know how much it sucks to be in that mental prison of being terrified to go to sleep because you know that the nightmares are going to just fuck you up for hours or days even. and I know how much it sucks, so I want to share what worked for me in case it works for anyone else, in case it resonates with you. What I found in my vague Google searching years ago was a whole list of playlists that were designed to help you focus your mind on something else entirely before bed. And I found this really, really interesting and also really exciting, because I wasn't the best at, imagining myself somewhere else at that point, because when you're in the throes of depression and PTSD and anxiety, it's really hard to imagine, For me, it's like I was a super creative person for the majority of my life, and then that, mental illness hits, and then it's like I couldn't imagine like what a pen looked like in my head, let alone myself on a deserted island basking in the sun. So for months, I would fall asleep to these YouTube playlists nightly, and they're nothing more than stories for adults, It sounds really silly to say, but it's really just a calming voice painting a very vivid visual picture for you to put you somewhere else in your dreams. And again, that sounds kind of silly when I say it out loud, but trust me, this was life-changing for me, because for the first time in 7 years, I was able to get a full night's rest. And I was able to wake up and not feel that sort of anxious nervousness that comes from being sleep deprived, that comes with chronic insomnia. And I was able to not wake up in a pool of my own sweat, shaking and having a panic attack, And to be free of something like that with such a simple solution was both amazingly exciting and also amazingly infuriating, because like I said, if I had known that this was a thing that existed years prior, I could have saved myself so many nights, thousands and thousands of nights of lost sleep. So the trick with this is you have to realize that the more you tell yourself you don't want something, the more you will focus on that, and the more likely it will be that you actually receive what you don't want. So if you're like, I don't want to get mugged tonight, I don't want to get mugged tonight, all you're doing is you're looking for people who are mugging others, and you will find them and they will notice you. If you think, I don't want to have nightmares tonight, I don't want to have nightmares tonight, all you're thinking about are the things that give you nightmares. And when you go to sleep, that's what's going to come up in your dreams. So have the courage to put yourself somewhere else. Look into it. Do some Google searches. See what other people are doing. You have a problem, right? The awesome thing about a problem is that you also have the ability to fix it. Because if somebody else out there has done it, you can too. And that's really what I want to inspire as many people to do as possible, is to recognize that you have a problem, that you have a problem with your brain, and then figure out how to fix it, because life is so much better once you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link to a couple of these playlists in the description of the video below, and I'm also going to create a link to them at the end of the video as well, so that you can kind of just check it out, At the very least, it's an opportunity to say, fuck it, why not? What if I am in control of my dreams? What if I could be free from the control that they've had over me? Would you take that? How would that change your life? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you've ever had a revelation like this. Let me know if you've ever consciously tried to control your dreams. Because really, wouldn't it be amazing if your nightmares turned into dreams? Wouldn't it be a relief if you could go to bed without feeling terrified? Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could fall asleep and stay asleep? Let me know how it goes for you. Let me know if you try it. I wish you the best of luck and sweet dreams.